And welcome once again to another episode of the HoriZone Roundtable. I am Bob McDonald, and you can find me on Twitter at Bob McDonald. Jimmy Lemke, my co-host, who you can find on Twitter at PantherU, was unable to join us. Not his fault. That requires some explanation a little later on. But you can also find the podcast on Twitter as well at HoriZone RT. Lots to get through. Lots of departures. Some significant ones that just actually came across everybody's desk just a short while ago, and it definitely involves Northern Kentucky. So I'm glad we have Kyle Craven from the Norse Report on joining us.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going, Bob?
Good. But before we get into all that, we at the podcast actually have an announcement of our own. It's funny that all these things are going on with people moving places and players planning to transfer, and the next thing that we've got Kyle on for, but. We are actually, for the time we've been on the podcast, we've been hosted first at 4lights.fm, and now at our most recent host at Sports Hacks, sportshacks.com. Both of those are run by Damian Bowman, my editor at More Than a Fan Cleveland, and then Campus Press Box. But Jimmy and I are going to be making the move. Going solo. This is actually going to be the last podcast on sportshacks.com, and we're going to be taking next week off for the Easter holiday. But 2 weeks from now, we will be at our own standalone site, HoriZoneRoundtable.com, and we're going to add another podcast app where you can find our podcast app, Anchor.fm. So be on the lookout for that as well. So again, big thanks to Damian for lending us a hand and kind of guiding us through our journey as a podcast over the past 2-3 been a while. So thank you to him, and that's kind of how we roll. So moving forward and moving on. And apparently that seems to be a central theme over the last week, Kyle, because just recently, today, we were recording on Sunday, we got word that the Cincinnati job that was originally was held by Mick Cronin before he went over to UCLA has now been filled by Northern Kentucky's John Brannen. So
yeah, shot to the heart.
Yeah. So this requires some explanation because we usually, and this actually, I consider this a blessing in disguise because Kyle, you were kind enough to join us earlier today when we were recording, before the announcement of John Brannen was made, and of course, me being a bonehead, didn't check to see if our audio was recording, so we had this big old podcast about the speculation about whether or not John Brannen was going anywhere, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, no more speculation, that's for sure.
It is definitely no longer speculation. John Brannen is heading across the Ohio River and going to be the head coach over at Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, it's to be honest with you, I don't know, Bob, if you saw all my tweets on Twitter, but I called this the second. I mean, I called this before Mick Cronin even left. I said that I honestly felt like we were watching the UCLA job to see if any dominoes fell, and if Cronin came open, if UC came open because Cronin left, then as long as UC wanted Brannen, he was their guy. Because there's just nothing. I mean, you know how it is. There's nothing we can do to keep him. He's making $1.5 million now.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Good for him.
Well, I mean, and it's something that we've obviously talked about on this podcast multiple times. Being a mid-major, being the Horizon League is kind of the nature of the beast. If you have a young coach who's you obviously can see is going to be destined for bigger and better things, as obviously John Brannen was. I mean, you knew it was only a matter of time before somebody was going to be interested in snatching him up. And I have to hand it to Northern Kentucky fans because when these things kind of come up, usually, we've seen in the past where there's a sense of dread in having your coach kind of take another step, and you don't know kind of what the next step is. But with Northern Kentucky, I see it's kind of more since Northern Kentucky is obviously a much younger fan base than a lot of the Horizon League. It seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's a little bit more of a it's a little bit more of an accepting atmosphere that your guy was great. He did a lot of great things while he was here. Yeah. We understand that he's destined for better things, and that's it. And we wish him well.
Yeah, and honestly, first off, I'm really glad you asked me to be on this podcast because I know that NKU has had some representation on this podcast before, but I'm happy to explain a little bit of the background of our fan base to the listeners because I think it's important. Many of our fans are what we like to call second team fans, right? Like NKU is their second team. This area that we're in, the Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, tri-state area is huge for college basketball. And so we see a lot of our fan base being Louisville fans or Kentucky fans or even UC and Xavier fans first.
Of course.
In fact, a lot of the people on our Facebook page that has, almost 2,500 people on it, is they're fans of other teams first. And so, especially for the UC and Xavier specifically, those crowds, they're used to the coaching carousel. So it's not like our fans are ignorant to how college basketball works. Yeah. It's just they're still kind of learning the landscape of like what NKU basketball is. And I think we all are. Even you guys are. I mean, nobody really is because this program has been D1 for 6 years now. So it's interesting to me to see that. And like you said, so many people are accepting of like this being a truth. I mean, we've seen it happen right across the river at Xavier all the time. And so many of our fans understood that this was going to happen. Yeah. I think the only hang up there is that people were kind of wishing it didn't happen yet. Maybe there was some unfinished business, but to me, it's like maybe there is unfinished business, but at the same time, and we lose an All-American, type player and the Horizon League Player of the Year. Yeah. What more did John Brannen have to prove at NKU? That's my thing. So good on him.
Sure. So I guess the first question is going to be I want to talk a little bit about the player impact a little later, but I want to get into kind of because we actually have talked about because obviously from our standpoint we see we have seen and will see. Brannen had fallen under kind of the category of those coaches where you could see potential movement. Brannen's one of them. I would contend that Scott Nagy is also in that category from Wright State. He potentially has that upside as well. At this point in time, apparently Mike Davis.
We've heard about that one.
So that actually, we for those of you who have not heard yet, apparently when Will Wade over at LSU was suspended for the issues that he's been having, according to Sports Illustrated, the first call that LSU got after the Will Wade suspension was from Mike Davis's agent, and I'm like, okay. First of all, aren't agents supposed to keep this from happening? Keep this type of stuff from getting out? And if so, Mike Davis might want to look for alternate representation. Just kind of throwing that out there.
Right.
But yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
No. It's just I just think the whole thing. That's an interesting situation at Detroit Mercy. I don't know, but obviously nothing's happening right now. So it's it's kind of a dead issue at this point in time. But hey, you never know. Maybe next year.
Yeah. Well, hey, NKU's got an opening now, so maybe Mike Davis is interested in that. He can bring his son with him. So.
I'm sure you guys would love that. Oh, wow. Could you imagine that backcourt of Tyler Sharp and Antoine Davis? I mean, I don't know. If I don't know if Detroit Mercy would sign off on that. Just kind of throwing that out there.
I don't know that there is a coach or a job opening that Mike Davis would want less than to come to NKU, especially after the shoe drive that our fans threw.
Oh, yeah, that. But this is kind of a good segue into. Well, we know Mike Davis isn't going to want the Northern Kentucky job, but let's talk a little bit about who potentially is going to fill. We can look for to fill this particular position. And I've seen, obviously, looking at the tweets, there's definitely some speculation out there. One of the names that I think potentially would be one to look out for is a name not just familiar to Northern Kentucky fans, but for some of the old school Horizon League fans, Ronald Norred, who, if I understand correctly, is an assistant coach with the Charlotte Hornets, I believe.
I think that's what we got earlier.
Yeah. So, and recall that he, a couple of years, and he was. He was just an assistant coach. About 2 years ago, something like that.
For NKU, yeah, he's been an assistant coach in the D1 era. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I
thought for sure he was a part of the first NCAA. He was part of the staff when the Norse went to the NCAA tournament first. I believe so. We had some guns on that staff, by the way.
Yeah, but that was a fun assistant coaching staff. Yeah. But no, to answer your question, kind of who might be interested.
Yeah.
Well, first off, there's certainly going to be a lot of interest from former assistants, like you're saying, the Ronald Norreds, the Dante Jacksons, the David Raglins, former players that have gone the coaching route that have also assistant coached for NKU. A lot of them are responsible for bringing on the current players. Okay. Then you have to look at internal assistants as well. There's one name that's getting a lot of steam right now. In fact, some people have been kind of saying that it's almost his job to win. Is Chris Shoemate. He's the head assistant right now on the team. If you watch the games, he's the tall, bald guy. He's to me, honestly, if I had to say who I want right now, I would say him, because at this point, like I told you earlier when we weren't recording, we have, in my opinion, the best returning roster as long as these players all decide to keep coming here. We have the best returning roster in the league, and so we need to give these players what's going to keep them on the team, in my opinion. And if that's Shoemate, and if that's and who knows, with all these assistants, none of them have coached before as a head coach. So who knows what they can really do at this point? It's what gives us the best roster. And I'm willing to roll the dice on someone who I might not fully know about to keep this team intact.
Okay. So Shoemate would definitely fit that bill. Sounds like. Let me ask you this. I mean, because I'm actually not familiar with Shoemate's background. Aside from Northern Kentucky, where else is he kind of? Has he been there a while? Has he been other places? I mean, I'm not really familiar with his background at the moment.
Yeah. I'm not really sure. I know that he's been at NKU for a little while. He's also been at Western Kentucky, and apparently he's also been an assistant at Tennessee and Southern Miss. So, he's been around the block a little bit, and he actually. Okay, this is interesting. I'm looking him up right now to get the whole background on him. So live research right here.
All right, great. Gave you a pop quiz. Awesome.
Yeah, I know, right? He actually played at Murray State, though, which is interesting to me. And then he actually he was in the D League for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then he coached with Mick Cronin as well at Cincinnati. So, he's definitely been around.
Gotcha.
Been around. Okay. He's been on our bench for about 3 years now. So,
so he is familiar. There is, of course, the off chance he does follow Brannen over to UC, which, being a former Cronin associate, assistant coach, he's also kind of familiar with that landscape too. So there is that possibility, of course. One other name I've already seen bantied about, and it's another name that Horizon League fans are definitely familiar with, and specifically me as a soon-to-be future Valparaisan. I don't know if that's a word or not, but I'm making it a word, damn it. Is Bryce Drew, the dearly departed former head coach at Vandy, and obviously, he was at Valparaiso after taking over for his dad Homer. Do you think that would be something? That's again, him knowing the landscape of the Horizon League, even played against, even before he left for Vandy. He's familiar with he is familiar with Northern Kentucky, having had to play him in the Horizon League. So there is also some familiarity with Bryce Drew. Would that be what would you think about that guy? Somebody like a Bryce Drew who happens to be available. And again has that mid-major track record.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. He's a tremendous young coach, obviously. The thing I would be concerned with, and I mean, obviously we'd fall into this even if we hired an assistant coach, is if they have success, how long are they going to be a Norse, right? Yeah. So with Bryce Drew, it's very clear that, I mean, look, he's not going to want to stay at the mid-major level if he doesn't have to. If he comes into NKU and does what John Brannen did, he'll probably be on his way very soon. I'm interested to see if he would be interested in the job. I know that a lot of people have kind of speculated that might be a call that we need to make, but I don't know that I'm not sure that there would be interest from him. I mean,
really,
I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard that there would be. Obviously, I'm not tight with his people or anything like that. I haven't heard really what exactly it is he's looking for. If he wants to come back to the Horizon League, then absolutely we need to interview the guy at least and see if there's interest. I think as far as the names that we've all mentioned, he's definitely the most we know what we're getting right away with him. That said, how long does the hire take? Do a lot of players reopen their recruitment? Do we lose transfers in the meantime?
I believe if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of your recruits already reopened. Who was that again? I think. Oh crap! I can't remember his name.
It was DJ Robertson. He's a point guard out of North Carolina. I mean, it's tough. Yeah, a guy like that. To me, he still had a little bit to do to become like an everyday D1 starter. He wasn't, in my opinion, wasn't going to come in and start tomorrow. He's a little bit needs to put on some weight, I think. But that said, crossover, really great finisher at the rim. Go ahead, sorry.
No. I mean, obviously, he would, given the fact that you got Tyler Sharp, you already got Tyler Sharp in the backcourt. You obviously had plenty of room to grow with that guy, but obviously he's looking elsewhere. So, but again, nature of the beast.
Yeah,
more or less.
I think for DJ, he already saw coming in. He saw potentially a crowded backcourt already with like you said, you had Tyler Sharp, Jalen Tate, Paul Joko, getting significant minutes down the stretch. Someone you might not know about, Trey Cobbs, was actually inactive this year. He's set to come back. So
Trey Cobbs was one of the guys. Funny you mentioned Trey Cobbs, because Trey Cobbs was a player that Cleveland State was trying to get, and he ended up with you guys. So
yeah. Yeah, so people were thinking.
And we saw as a Cleveland State fan that was looking at a kid like that for Cobbs, we saw what kind of he was. And again, another pretty good point guard coming out of high school. So that definitely, but our loss is your gain, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's the thing. It's like we're losing Zanai Robinson this year, who was a really good senior point guard. He didn't come in and was a world beater. Now that said, he scored 15 against Wright State in the championship and took us to the tournament. But he was a really solid backup point guard that took care of the ball and played solid defense. That's exactly what Cobbs can be. And so the point is, DJ probably looks at already a crowded backcourt, and then the uncertainty of a coach. Is a new coach going to come in and allow DJ to get his chance to be the guy or not? And so I'm not going to blame him for reopening his recruitment. It sucks, but That's why I think the onus is on us now. Listen, this has been a rumor for a week. The onus is on us. We should have been doing our homework and doing our research and making calls if we had to. Mm-hmm. It's time to hire someone, and we need to do it in the next 4 or 5 days max.
Sure.
So,
and the good news for you down in Northern Kentucky, obviously you got a guy in charge, Ken Bodoff, who has been down this road before.
Absolutely.
So he knows the landscape.
Too many times.
Especially, he was at Green Bay where he had to. He was a guy who at Green Bay, if I'm not mistaken, he had to get Todd. He had to transition from Mike Heidemann to Todd Kowalczyk, and then Todd Kowalczyk went over to Toledo for some reason. Still can't figure that one out. And, no, seriously, I'm still trying to. Yeah, still trying as I was reminded during the fan battle royale. As the Green Bay fans had dubbed him PMCK, poor man's Coach K.
That's right. That's right.
So he had to. So you probably that actually especially. In the case, since you got a guy like Bodoff in charge, who knows the landscape and has been all about the transition anyway.
Well, he's done it before at NKU.
Yeah, exactly.
When Bodoff came in, it was Beasled, who was our D2 coach for 17 years or 19 years or whatever it was, and then he brought in his guy, John Brannen, and look what that was. And the other thing is, like, John Brannon's a local legend, obviously, but for people like me who are 27, who weren't alive when Brannen was doing his thing. And might not have known who he was back when he was in high school and college. Mm-hmm. For me, I didn't know who the hell he was when we brought him in. I was like, oh, here's an assistant. Okay, This is going to be interesting. He's coached an NIT game. They lost. Well, I don't know. And then look at what happened. So who knows? I mean, I'm very much open to what we're going to do, and I do trust our administration. I'm glad you do too. Makes me feel good.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, right.
Well, if you got Cleveland State's got their, they've got a new AD coming in Scott Garrett now, so that's going to be.
Saw that, yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to having a conversation with him. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm hoping he will be, he will be joining us on the podcast soon.
Wow, big time! Look at you.
Yeah, I know. Well, come on, we've been doing this for like a year.
That's true. I have not actually. Well, it's funny you say that. I haven't met Ken Bodoff yet, so I'm looking forward to the day. Well, so back in my day, I used to intern for the athletics department, and so I was on the intern staff when we went through the transition from Scott Eaton. Who, if you ever are bored on a Tuesday afternoon and you just want to have a good chuckle, Google what happened to Scott Eaton at NKU.
Okay,
it's an interesting controversy that happened right at the beginning of our D1 time. And it's something that's going to make you laugh, I think. So we bring in Ken Bodoff, and I actually got to shake his hand when he first started. But I'm an intern I'm the intern that's handing out flyers and running the on-court promotions. Like, what does Ken Bodoff care about me? So I am interested to actually meet him. From a more professional standpoint in the near future. So
there you go. So
right.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, he's definitely. I think he's probably already got. He already, once these rumors started, he already probably had a list of people he's going to give a call. So, I really don't expect the Northern Kentucky job to be open very long.
I hope not.
And hopefully it's not within the next week, because we got next week off, so we don't want to. So we at least talk about it on the podcast a little bit.
Right.
But, it's funny because, this has been, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, this has been such just a wild week with, and I guess I shouldn't be surprised about this. This is the nature of mid-major basketball. You're always going to have players coming and going and doing whatever, and this week was especially busy. It started out with Malachi Smith, who I'm sure you're very familiar with. All freshman team on
a little bit.
All freshman player for Wright State. He announced that he was going to be transferring. Also, and then Oakland, man, Oakland got hit twice. Javen Cumberland, who, like a month ago, they announced that they were going to be bringing all of their Red Shirt juniors back. Brad Brechting, Javen Cumberland, Xavier Gomez. They made this big old splash, big old announcement, and then last week Javen Cumberland says he's going to transfer.
Yeah, he probably knew something that we didn't.
Not to throw any conspiracy theories out there, but let me toss my tinfoil hat out for a minute.
Conspire away. Yeah, go ahead.
So as many of us know, Javen is the cousin of Jaron Cumberland down in Cincinnati. So I don't know. John Brannen's seen Javen Cumberland a few times,
and he's seen Jaron too last year. He played him. He played him combined. He played him 4 times last year. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? It's interesting. Why not? If you're Javen Cumberland, and that if that is the opportunity, why not?
I'd be interested in seeing that. Yeah. Again, this is pure speculation, not sure, but I mean, all the puzzle pieces are fitting very nicely.
But if we're being fair, I mean, obviously we're very in tune with the Cincinnati market up here in Northern Kentucky. So, I have plenty of friends who are subscribed to UC boards and big time UC fans, and that's not a ridiculous topic. Like, it's not. You said the tinfoil hat. It's funny you say that. It's really not a tinfoil. It's really not a tinfoil hat thing. It's something that's being talked about a lot in UC circles. Is this a possibility? Could Javen be going to UC? He's from the area too. So
that's true. This is very true. He is.
So
I mean, it does sound very plausible. Now
the Norris one, I couldn't tell you. I have no clue what's going on with that. Except for the fact that maybe he just feels like he might be better than where he's at. I don't know. And that's no disrespect to Oakland.
That's Braden Norris, by the way. Just kind of another kind of surprise transfer for Oakland. Braden Norris, freshman guard, probably one of the best freshmen in the HoriZone League last year that wasn't named Antoine Davis.
Yeah.
He announced that he was going to be transferring as well. So yeah, I'm actually interested in seeing where he's going to end up going as well. So that's because that one was him and Malachi Smith. Those two are. I'm very interested in seeing where both of them are going to land. Because that is you hate to see people leave, but at the same time, you're the HoriZone League. You've seen this before. I'm a Cleveland State fan. I'm surprised that nobody I know has transferred.
Right.
I mean, right now all Cleveland State has is Alexa Popovich, who played a grand total of 5 total minutes because he was injured most of the time. That's the extent of the Cleveland State transfers at this moment. Watch I say that, and then somebody else leaves. I'm like, oh, damn it. I'm hoping not. I'm really hoping not. Because especially since we've got kind of gassed up about how much better we're going to be next year. Sure. So but yeah, the last, but so that is so with Mal Smith transferring, that's one thing, because even with him transferring, Wright State still has a really solid core. They still have.
Oh, they're going to be a very good team.
They still have Loud Love. They still have Billy Wampler. They still have Cole Gentry. They still have Skylar Potter. Glad I didn't say Skylar Quisenberry.
Yeah, Ernsthausen.
Ernsthausen graduated. Ernsthausen did graduate.
Did
he? Yeah. Ernsthausen graduated.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank God. Wish him nothing but the best.
I'm sure you do. But yeah, so. And Wright State has been, I mean, I know it's super early, but Wright State is kind of widely considered, given that core, to be one of the front runners next year again as well. I would not doubt it. But the Oakland situation is a little more interesting to me. Because of the fact that you still have, even with Cumberland and Norris transferring, you still have a really solid core within within Oakland. You still have Hill Mays coming back. You still have Brad Brechting in the middle. He's going to give everybody headaches, as I knew he would, as I called, because I knew the Brad Brechting breakout game was going to come, and it came against Cleveland State. I wish it didn't happen against Cleveland State, but I knew it was coming. I absolutely knew it was coming. So, with that, but at the same time, you see kind of with Oakland was from where they were sitting before the transfer announcements. You saw an Oakland team that you really saw, and I thought would really be a threat to win the conference next year. I don't see them as strong next year. I still think they will compete, make no doubt about it. But I don't know. It's going to be a little tighter competition at the top next year, and you throw in now.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, I was actually just going to kind of make a point. I think you're starting to make is it seems like a lot of this news has affected the teams at the top, minus one that we haven't talked about that you're going to probably get into here soon. But for the most part, it's been the top three teams getting affected by either coaching changes, players reopening their recruiting, or transferring. And so to me, it takes what already was a league where any team could beat any team on any given night and makes it even more even across the board, which in my opinion, it sucks that maybe there won't be like a really dominant team in the league next year, but it's also probably best for the league for it to be as competitive as possible.
Yeah. And as I said during the Battle Royale, I did say, the big test is for the HoriZone League next year is not going to be I don't think is going to be within the conference. I think the conference is going to be fiercely competitive. It was fiercely competitive this year. The big step for the HoriZone League into kind of making this this ascension from kind of the depths they've been in is how they compete in the non-conference. Last year was obviously an improvement over the year before. The year before was atrocious. Yeah. But I think that's going to be the big key. I can see opportunities for the for all of even with kind of the and again, and as I said with Oakland, I mean, you lose Norris, you lose Cumberland, you still have Kenny Pittman. He looked pretty good when he was out there. You still have Kamari Newman. You still have Trey Maddox. I'm actually looking forward to seeing Trey Maddox's sophomore campaign. He is really good. He's already hyping everybody up with his. He's tweeting
those videos.
He's tweeting out videos. I'm like, all right, I think you're gonna be all right.
Well, and he knows something's about to go down because if you saw, he's defending Norris for transferring.
He tweeted out to us, and because we were like, we're not really sure if this makes sense, but I'm like, I mean, if who are we to judge? I mean, seriously, I mean, it's mid majors. It's the nature of the beast. We get it, and I never, ever underestimate Greg Campy. Because remember, at the beginning of this season, I had absolutely no idea what they were going to do this season. And they outperformed my expectations. I'll tell you that. That is, what they did this year to me was it really was a big boost to the HoriZone League when they came in and they started competing and just doing what they did this season. I thought next year was going to for sure be their year. I still think that too. Again, based upon what they have coming back. And also just the fact that Greg Campy's still there.
Right. No, I'm with you for sure. I think that Campy. I mean, Wright State fans might be mad, but they're the one fan base I really don't care if I make mad. Greg Campy, in my opinion, is the best coach in the Horizon League. I don't know. I love the guy. I think he's awesome. He's been there forever, and he's just been consistently good. I wouldn't say he's ever. I won't say ever, but being great has escaped him a few times. But he's always been very competitive and very good. So I've been thinking and trying to make a comparison to like an NBA coach for what Campy would resemble, and the closest I can come, with just always being around success, is someone like Greg Popovich. But obviously, he's probably not quite to that level because he hasn't won the championships and stuff like that.
I was thinking Jerry Sloan.
That's a really good comparison.
Jerry Sloan. Yes.
For all the younger millennials than me out there who don't know who Jerry Sloan is.
All the young I'm gonna do my get off my lawn moment. All you young whippers, back in the long time ago, back in many years ago, there was this guy out in Utah, in the middle of Salt Lake City, where they don't allow dancing. His name was Jerry Sloan.
Now let me ask you this.
And he coached. He was able to convince Karl Malone to be out there for many years, and Karl Malone. So, and John Stockton.
Is that the best team during the Jordan era to not win a championship?
I don't know. Utah. I don't know. Either Utah or the Suns during the Barkley era. Maybe.
Yeah.
One or the other. I don't know.
I think you got to go with Utah just based on the fact that you have Jerry Sloan, who's regarded as probably one of the best coaches to never get it done, at the championship level. And then you also think about this. People always forget this. Well, they don't forget the first part, but John Stockton, number one in the NBA in assists of all time by a lot. So that's the easy one. It's easy.
I mean, honestly, it's easy to do that when you got a guy like Karl Malone you can feed the ball to.
And that's what I was going to say. People always forget about this, but Karl Malone's number 2 in NBA history in scoring.
Yeah,
I never remember that until they showed the thing on ESPN of like how far away LeBron is from like the next person. Yeah. I always see Karl Malone's name just hanging out there, and I'm like, oh my god, that team was actually amazing. So I don't know, man. All right, anyway, sorry. That's who
we're comparing Greg Campy to. We're comparing from an NBA standpoint. Greg Campy is Jerry Sloan. There you go.
Fair enough.
Best comparison.
I hope you like that, Greg.
There you go. I don't know. By the way, I also don't want to jinx this. He's probably gonna. We're working on getting him on the podcast too. So I don't think I'm going to make that comparison there, but maybe I don't know. We might go in some weird directions on that one.
He seems like a great guy to have on a podcast, though. So
exactly. Why do you think we want him on?
Yeah, no kidding. I'm sure he'll make it fun regardless. So.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. No, are you kidding me? If his halftime interviews are any indication, best episode ever.
No doubt. Oh, well, hey, now. Come on. I thought
so true. The one team, unfortunately, there is one other team we got to talk about because who just lost a transfer, and that's IUPUI.
Yep.
They lost Cameron Justice, their top scorer, again. One of the best players in the Horizon League last year. I mean, and by the way, this speaks kind of to the depth of the top performance in the league when a guy like Cameron Justice is on the second team. I'm pretty sure he's on the second team.
Second team All Horizon? I thought he was first.
Okay, never mind. He was first. I'm sorry. Wait. Oh, good Lord.
Well, now I'm about to look it up.
See, we got to look it up again, and we actually had this on here, and I couldn't remember. My God, I'm such a bonehead.
keep talking, Bob. Keep making your point. I'm looking it up right now.
So the problem with them is that you have a situation where
you're right. He was second team. It was him and Appleby were second team randomly. I thought they would be first for sure, but yeah, I mean. You had 3 bigs in the first team. That's why.
You had. I mean, seriously, you had Loudon Love. You had,
Xavier Hilmays.
You had obviously the Player of the Year, Drew McDonald.
The GOAT. Respect the GOAT.
And Sandy Cohen. You're not leaving Sandy Cohen off of the first team.
Antoine Davis also.
And Antoine Davis, who is probably the best freshman to ever come out. One of the best freshman campaigns in probably the history of the Horizon League. one
Well,
of.
and that's
Not necessarily the best, but one of. Definitely up there.
His season, albeit amazing and incredible, and I've said it before, he's the most talented player in the league right now, and it's not even close. It needs to have an asterisk next to it, though, because that dude should be playing for like Texas Tech or freaking TCU or somebody like that actually recruited him.
Well, honestly, can you imagine Antoine Davis on that Houston team that went to the NCAA tournament this year with Kelvin Sampson?
Yeah,
that's where he was supposed to go.
They beat Kentucky. I mean, for sure.
Yeah.
So
exactly. But hey, that again. That also is the nature of the mid majors. You get guys who were supposed to be high major or were in high major, and there he was. I mean, Sandy Cohen,
same example,
from Marquette.
Do you think he's going to make the NBA? By the way, I heard he's getting worked out.
What's that now?
I heard he's getting worked out by NBA teams.
He probably is. We'll probably see him in summer league. I would think we're gonna do our annual conversation with Rashad Phillips. We usually talk to him right before the summer league, so I'm pretty sure Sandy Cohen's name is definitely going to come up. So
that's good.
But yeah, man. For back to IUPUI though, and again another example: Cameron Justice, transfer from Vanderbilt, high major guy, came in. I mean, was their best scorer, and they already were kind of behind the eight ball because you already had, they're already losing DJ McCall, the defensive player of the year. Mm-hmm. They're losing Evan Hall. They're losing Ahmed Ishmael. I mean, losing those guys at graduation was bad enough. And then you have Cameron Justice leaving. I'm not sure if you got Jalen Minette, you got Grant Weatherford, but man, I'm not 100% sure I'm not sure if they make the Horizon League tournament, which is ironic considering the Horizon League tournament is going to be in their building.
Yeah, no kidding. No, it's
basically if this actually comes to play out, everybody who's complaining about this not being a neutral court is gonna, you guys wasted your breath.
Well, it's funny because most of that news came from our fan base, or noise. Yeah. I mean, came from our fan base because we felt threatened that here we have this team set up that we felt like even though we're losing Drew McDonald, we're still right there, and we felt like we were getting kind of shafted, I guess, because we wanted it to be in our city, of course, and everything like that, and then it goes to Indy where the headquarters are, and you're like, oh my god. Well, it is kind of funny because now. It looks like karma might be happening or something. I'm not really sure.
And the thing is, too, again, remember, this is an IUPUI team that kind of struggled down the stretch of this season, and they only finished in 8th place. So
except for when they beat us, of course.
And that was with Cameron Justice. Mm-hmm. So I can't even imagine. I don't know what Jason Gardner, their head coach, has coming down the pike. But I'm not sure it's anything that's gonna, I'm not sure if it's gonna be anything that's gonna be able to sufficiently replace a guy like Cameron Justice.
Well, it can't be anything great, or else Cameron Justice probably would have stayed, right? I mean,
well, now, mind you, of course, he's a good, he's one of those he's one of the grad transfers, and
doesn't have to sit out,
as it's been my experience with grad transfers, usually they find, especially ones who came in, They do tend to seek life on a brighter stage.
Right.
The best example I can give you, and I'm doing this without giving myself conniption fits, is when Trey Lewis, who started his career at Penn State, transferred, had to sit out a year, went to Cleveland State, played 2 years, and then he went to Louisville. So, but again, a guy from went to a high major, decided he wanted to come home, played a couple years at the hometown school, and then decided, it's time for me to move on. At the time, of course, And it's still, and that was 4 years ago, still a point of contention, by the way.
Yeah. Hey, can I tell you a funny story about that, by the way?
Sure. You have a Trey Lewis story?
It's so random, but I promise you I do. So I told you that everyone here, a lot of them are what we call second fans, right?
Sure.
So one of those examples is my best friend, my former roommate, Harlan Barker. He's a huge Louisville fan. And so this is the year after, I believe, Terry Rozier graduated, I think, was the year that Trey Lewis and Damian Lee came to Louisville. And,
you are correct, yes.
Okay, perfect. So anyway, Trey Lewis announces that he's going to go to Louisville, and so naturally, my good friend Harlan is like, I got to figure out who this guy is. I got to look him up, and he's a big subscriber to like fan boards, like you guys were talking about 2 weeks ago. He's big on the Louisville fan boards. Well, so he does a search for the Cleveland State fan boards to try to find him. And to hear about how good of a player Trey Lewis is, and he was telling me that all the threads about Trey Lewis on there were just dogging him and trashing him for leaving. And it's just funny that you mentioned him and that being a contentious point, because I know that you used to be, when they had fan boards, super active on there. So he was probably reading your comments about Trey Lewis.
Not mine. Let me tell you something. I stayed the hell out of that one.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I bailed out of the. I'm pretty sure that was right about the. I know I bailed out of this because that was 2015. Okay. I bailed the hell out of there. Obviously, if you heard my commentary on that particular board, you know my feelings on that. So, but yeah, that's us. That is completely us. That I cannot deny it.
It's a small world story, I guess you would say, because I'm
not really surprised.
Back then, personally, like NKU was in the Horizon back then, but we were new to the Horizon. We weren't that great. I loved NKU, but I had a very closed-minded view on NKU basketball.
Sure.
Not closed-minded, but more like tunnel vision, where I was just focusing on NKU, and I didn't really care to get to know the rest of the league that much. And so, I just knew that Cleveland State was this team that had Norris Cole one time, and then they had Trey Lewis one time, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And it's just funny now that like I actually care about who Cleveland State is, and the thing that I first knew about them besides
if we could only get people from Cleveland to care, that would be something.
Well, yeah, that's a stuff. At least you're not Detroit, though. I mean, it could be worse. You guys have a smaller city and still more fan interest in them, so not by a lot.
That's not saying much, man. Anyway, yeah, with that, I'm going to go ahead and actually that's like saying you're taller, since tonight is the premiere of the final season of Game of Thrones. It's like saying you're taller than Tyrion Lannister.
Right.
Yes, I got a Game of Thrones reference in today. And with that, we're going to close out. So Kyle, thank you for joining us, or I should say rejoining us, since I'm the bonehead who can't record anything right. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, no doubt. So you guys can find us at Norse Report is where you can find the Norse Report. And then also you can find me at Kyle Craven _ NR. NR is for Norse Report. So at Kyle Craven _ NR.
All right, great. All right, so with that, we will kind of wrap this all up. You can find us, at least one last time, you can find episodes of the HoriZone Roundtable on sportsax.com, HAX.com. And you can find us wherever you find wherever you find podcasts. Remember, we're going to be moving everything over to HoriZoneRoundtable.com, and theoretically, all of the feeds for our podcast apps will still be in place. If not, drop us a line and complain. So we'll get that fixed. So, but other than that, that's it. And thank you for listening.